Hello everyone, welcome to Extra Christian History, the part of the show where I talk about the things I messed up, things I got wrong, and things I didn't put in the videos. So let's start off with the Haitian Revolution. So one thing you need to know is, like the American Revolution, it was a lot of information and 8 minutes. Granted I could have done longer, like 15, but I tried to stick with less than 10. And it was a lot of information. Like, I only focused on the slaves and Europe, just that, not anything else. Granted, there was a lot more information that I couldn't put, but despite I did mention some things, I'll post a separate video about it later. Yeah. A question that someone asked me: what was so important about England in the war that I mentioned? Well, England was, as you know, in the French Revolution, was at war with France for the most of the time. And they had sent an army, or just a force, down to Saint-Domingue. So that's partly how. And England also had an island in the Caribbean, like Jamaica or Barbados, which was a good base to send in troops. When they essentially made an alliance with French settlers that were refugees, they took prisoners and reinstated them as slaves. Another thing you might be asking: why did the rebels like the alliance with Spain? So there were rumors that turned out to be incorrect that the King of Spain, Louis, was supportive of emancipation, but that wasn't true. So, Charles Leclerc. So, when his force originally arrived in Saint-Domingue, Napoleon's orders were to negotiate a peaceful solution, but as you saw, that did not happen. Why? Well, one of Leclerc's commanders attacked a fort because of a miscommunication, so that's why. So why did France end slavery? At this time, despite they had knocked out Prussia and Spain, which I mentioned, they were still fighting against England and Austria. So, despite them doing so well, they were now fighting a bad war, and with one of their colonies now fighting against them, that just was it. Not to mention, they realized that with the Great Slave System no longer effective in Saint-Domingue, not to mention their income that came to France was not coming, they just had no choice, really, or just figured it was time. Alright, the Zulu Empire. So, why did Shaka declare war on the Ndwandwe tribe? Because of the death of Dingiswayo. So, this is a little confusing, but it results down to one thing. Shaka's father thought his son, Shaka, was illegitimate, so he didn't name him as the heir. So Shaka and his mother left to another tribe, which then followed up to the Metetwa, and Dingiswayo was the leader of the Metetwa. And Shaka served him well. And Dingiswayo actually helped Shaka kill his half-brother for the throne. And when he was killed, you're getting it. So how did England get Cape Town? With Napoleon in power, he began to change a number of European governments, like I said, the Dutch Republic. I'll get that in another episode. So when the King of Orange, yes, I'm serious, fled to England, he asked them to take over his colonies so Napoleon wouldn't get them. So why were Boers coming into Zululand? Well, specifically, like I said, when England was taking over the area, they wanted to unify the Boers into one group, but the Boers didn't like being under a foreign country, and they wanted to essentially be independent from him. Before we get out of the topic of the Zulu Empire, I just want to say one thing about the Boers. The tension between the Boers and the British government would eventually lead to the Boer Wars, which would essentially follow the fall of the Zulu Empire, and also would lead to a rebellion by the Boers during World War One. So the final episode, the Viking Conquest of France. Like you saw with the Viking Conquest of Ireland video, the Vikings never conquered the entire country. Something I didn't put in the episode was that the Vikings were taking the opportunity of the three kingdoms warring with each other. The kings were actually hiring mercenaries, specifically Vikings, to attack each other, which was a totally bad idea. Another question. Why did Ragnar decide to take the bribe that Charles I had and just leave? The main reason, I guess, is because he realized that his army was infested with disease after he had captured Paris, so he figured it was his best option, probably. Something very funny I found about this period. I didn't put the full names of the three kings I mentioned, Charles I, II, and III. If I ever come back to this period again, I'll definitely post it in the video. The names, this is a funny period in king names, and Charles I, I said, was actually, his name was Charles the Bald. And he wasn't actually bald-headed. It was weird. And Charles II was actually Charles the Fat. That was his name. And Charles III was actually Charles the Simple. Though he was not simple. He was incredibly smart. Why didn't Charles III destroy Rollo's army? And what were his advantages I was talking about? Well, Charles III's advantage was that he had fresh troops. Rollo's army was devastated, having lost so many men. And Charles III had cavalry, fresh cavalry, which were very effective. But despite those advantages Charles had, he couldn't break Rollo's force. Why? Well, it comes down to this main reason. Despite Rollo having escaped, he had made it to the river where despite he could get into his boats, it would take too long with his whole army. But the main reason is that Rollo heard cavalry coming, and he ordered his men to slaughter and make a wall of dead livestock, and that actually scared the horses and they wouldn't move at all. When I said that French kings had paid Vikings over 120,000 pounds of silver to leave France, that was a third of all the coins they had minted that specific year. Why did Charles III make that deal with Rollo, and why did Rollo accept it? First off, like I said, because of all that money that the kings had already pretty much wasted over the years, and the reputation of the king was dissolving. And the final reason, Charles the Simple saw a good opportunity. He saw that Vikings were very effective against a lot of forces, but they were most effective at other Vikings. So the idea was simple. Give land for Vikings to defend against other raiders. That was it. But why did Rollo do that? Why did he take the deal? He believed the best idea for his descendants would be to give them land. Give them land for a place for them to live. and there was his option. If you missed any of the episodes, the links are in the description. Last thing, upcoming episode. My next episode will come up on March 9th, and it is the French and Indian War. I've had this up for a while on for posting the next episode, and I'm excited to do this one because a lot of people don't know how the war got started. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but don't look up the episode, please. I'll see you next time for when I am fixing any problems I made on the videos. See you then. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check me out over on Patreon. The link is in the description.